Night stand.
100% Chelsea.
Arsenal Fan TV.
All about the fans.
Why is he on the fucking pitch? What for what?
Exclusive content only here.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to
The UFF Daily Football Show.
The #1 source for everything going on in the football world daily.
UFF. Do what you have to do.
Hello and welcome back to FanPark Live. We're here with our head-to-head debate shows. We're back again every night, 10 p.m. live in association with history in the lead-up to the World Cup. Remember, from the 28th of May on history, you'll be able to watch 24/7 documentaries and films about the history of football. You can check that out on Twitter with the hashtag history of football. Joined by two guests tonight. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
I'll let you go first. Losers first.
I
ain't playing, man. I ain't playing.
Yeah, it's your boy Drifty.
It's Devo, Football Banter Show.
Yeah, both from the Football Banter Show, and we're here tonight to have what I'm really looking forward to this debate, because some people we've got to get the premise right from the start, but we are looking at the careers of Paul Gascoigne and Paul Scholes. But forget what they did at the club level, forget what they did in pre-season, forget what they did anywhere other than in an England shirt with the 3 lions on their chest. We're discussing their international careers. Both top-class midfielders. I know this is going to be a really passionate debate from both. We've got D here that's going to be covering Paul Scholes, and Drifty's going to be looking at Paul Gascoigne. But remember, we want your views and your opinions as well. Leave your comments below on the live stream, so let us know what you think. You can also give us a call on 0203 606 0315. We really do want your views and opinions. We've got some videos that have been sent in from some YouTube influencers as well. And Jay's going to put my phone up on the screen for us right now. Currently a poll out there on the UFF Twitter page. 3,000 votes in currently. 57% of the votees have gone for Paul Scholes over Gaza, and it's who was the best English midfielder out of the two, Gaza or Scholes. We'll see if that's going to change in any way, shape or form through the course of this debate. So gentlemen, who's going to go first?
Yeah, I should go first, yeah? Okay, I'll go
with
first.
Paul Scholes. So you've got 2 minutes
right.
to tell us why Paul Scholes was the best England midfielder out of the two.
Okay, well, firstly, Paul Scholes, if you ask any true footballing fan, will tell you he was a one-in-a-generation type of midfielder, central midfielder, who was ahead of his time in terms of his ability on English midfielders before that. Obviously, playing in the England side, some of his best performances weren't really for England. They were mainly for Man United. That's because, at the time, the managers didn't know what to do with him. They'll shift him to the left, all this kind of stuff. But he still played well out of position in the England shirt. Gascoigne, back in the day, when you think of the others, who were the other English central midfielders in that time? There wasn't really any big names that he had to really go get. I mean, there was David Platt.
I thought you were going to
David Platt.
forget.
David Platt is not on the level of a Gerrard or a Lampard, is he? So for Paul Scholes to be amongst that lot and still come out, and Zidane and Xavi saying that he is, Xavi even said that he looked up to him. He was a role model. Paul Scholes. He didn't say that about Gaza.
There we go. Drifty. Why do you think Paul Gascoigne is the best of the two England midfielders?
Well, firstly, all of those things that were said good about Scholes were in a Man United shirt, not in an England shirt. We're talking about arguably, and I know there's a bit of nostalgia attached to this, you know what I mean? We all grew up watching Gascoigne. You're looking at arguably the most naturally gifted English player ever. Like, just raw ability, just rolling a ball and tricked flicks, showing off. If he wasn't English, I think he'd have been a lot more hyped. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you guys remember, back in the day, even just little things like you see him in training and they'll be like messing around and stuff. The stuff he was doing was just like next generation type, you know what I mean, skills and flicks. And in an England shirt, this guy performed on like arguably England's best tournament since we won the World Cup. He was in a hometown and he just lit that tournament up. He just really did. So obviously, because we're talking about in an England shirt, I think it's unquestionable that Paul Gascoigne had the better England career than Scholes. He just did. And with Scholes being shifted out of position, was that because he wasn't as good as Gerrard? Because he wasn't as good as Lampard? Because why was he the one who was sacrificed? I'm not going to start that debate. But for me, I just think Paul Gascoigne, he just natural raw talent. There was no English midfielder better than him.
Well, you know what I'd say? The biggest thing that people remember Gaza for is crying in the World Cup. That's his biggest memory of Gascoigne is an ill-timed challenge. He knew he shouldn't have made that challenge. So his temperament, his professionalism is another down point for Gascoigne. Because he knew he shouldn't have made that challenge. He made it, got booked, and then cried in front of the nation. That's why he's the nation's sweetheart. Because of that.
Over the football, you think?
Yeah.
It's a great point. There's a comment here from Android Phone who says, why aren't you talking about the new Arsenal manager? Forget these stale topics. Come on. Listen, honestly, right, if this sounds horrible, I don't apologise. This is a proper football debate. You've got to understand your history. It was interesting the other day. We had both Claude and Adam in here talking about Cloughy and Sir Alex. Neither support clubs that those guys managed, but both walk away saying, after doing research, I have a newfound respect for both of these football managers. And that's the point of these debates. It's for history, which is part of the history of football. And so often when I sit in this room, we discuss current issues in football. People's lack of history, their lack of understanding of players beforehand who'd played similar positions, or there may have been a similar situation between a dispute between a manager and a player, or we talk international football. If you don't know your history, if you don't bother to learn and bother to listen and do research off the back of these shows, for me, you're a limited football fan. You really are a limited football fan. You should do some more research. And that may sound harsh, but I really mean it. So don't embarrass yourself with any more silly comments like that at all. Cool. So we want to take your calls, 0203 606 0315. We want your views and opinions on these matters as well. What we'll do with you gentlemen, though, is any points that he raised about Paul Scholes that you want to challenge directly, anything you said you don't think is right or you don't think is justifiable to make him regarded as the best of the two England midfielders?
I think it's just that I think everyone who rates Scholes is based on the United career. I think it is. I don't really think Scholes ever really did anything in an England shirt. I'm not saying he was terrible, because he was a quality player and he played his part. But I mean, I even tried to do a little bit of research, obviously, you know, trying to see the enemy quickly while I was on my Paul Gascoigne stuff. And I was just thinking, he doesn't even have a standout moment for England.
What a hat-trick in a qualifier against Poland.
Yeah.
I mean,
scoring a winner in a World Cup game.
No, but I mean, like,
the double against Scotland in the playoffs.
Yeah, but
come on, that's huge.
He's got
that's three huge things off the top of my head.
Yeah. It's still not that ultimate standout moment. Do you know what I mean?
Is that because he's a Man United player doing it?
No. It's just because I would really have to research Scholes to have a memorable England moment. But there's not just one in my head already.
You have to remember as well, when Scholes was playing for England, when he was really playing for England, we were going through this whole thing of the managers didn't really know their best team. They didn't know what to do with the players. So it kind of, we had this really talented team, but they didn't know what to do with it. Yeah. So the tactics were all over the place. Whereas when Gascoigne was at his height in 1990 and then 96, it was just, especially the whole, it was in our home backyard, and there's this whole passion thing, and there's the thing where they all went out and got pissed up beforehand, and you know, and it kind of brought the team together because the media were on their backs, and they kind of came through this whole thing. And Gascoigne scored that goal against Scotland.
Well, that's your moment. I would say those are your moments. You mentioned them both there. The goal against Scotland and crying in 1990 are his big moments. What I would say is you can't really blame Paul Scholes for not playing for England in a home nations tournament. So if Paul Scholes would have got his hat-trick against Poland in a home tournament, which he can't control that. It's not his fault when he was born. Maybe that's why those two Gaza moments stand out. But what I would say, in terms of an argument here, is Gaza was playing for England where we didn't qualify for the 92 Euros and the 94 World Cup.
But that's not on him.
Well, but Paul Scholes was never part of an England team that failed to qualify.
Yeah, but he was arguably part of the most talented England selection of players they've had. Do you know what I mean? I know obviously you got the 66 team and you've got a few others, but like a lot of people say, arguably that's the most talented group of it. I know we didn't do anything, but that was the most talented group. So I mean, it was a little bit easier for Scholes to be more successful.
No, I think in that side, as you just said, the most talented side we've ever had, to kind of stand out in that and score important goals, which Paul Scholes did.
I don't really think he did stand out.
He scored
Nah,
important
not for
goals,
England.
right. But Paul Scholes was never really the player to stand out because he wasn't a superstar. He was quiet, he got on with his job, and then he went home. How many interviews do you ever see with Paul Scholes when he was a player? None.
Yeah,
he
but
just did his job and went home. If he was flashy and like he didn't do tricks unless he needed to. He played the ball because it had to go there. He took a shot because he had to. Do you know what I mean? He didn't waste the ball. No, he was very good at what he did, and he did not waste the ball. How many times did Paul Scholes lose the ball? In his career, you could probably count that.
Listen, this isn't a debate about whether Scholes is good. We know that. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, that home nation thing. Listen, that's a lot of pressure, you know.
Yeah.
Like how everyone's saying, "Oh, but they were at home." No, that makes it worse. We know what we're like as English fans. Yeah, that made it harder to perform, in my opinion. If there was a World Cup now in England, the team would buckle. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't really.
Do you actually? An interesting a side note on this. I think with Paul Gascoigne, we know that he had moments in his club and international career, predominantly off the pitch, where he let himself down. And I think we can say
it's
that.
his personal.
But you think back to Euro '96. Now, I'm not saying professional football players should go out and do dentist chairs, but there was an element of there is massive pressure when you're in a home tournament. But there's almost an argument to say letting the players go out and have. And we were talking about Brian Clough the other day. Well, you know, before the European Cup final, you know, we'd have his players sitting down in a bar somewhere or in the hotel, and he'd walk in with half a pint of beer for everybody and say, "Look, have a little drink. Helps relax you." Gets your mind ready for the next day. Now, I know now with sports science, we know that alcohol isn't good for you. I'm not saying we should let players drink, but you know, if Gazza, maybe Gazza in the way he behaved as a player helped to relax that England side. Maybe it took all the pressure away because they actually were. When you listen to a lot of England players, you saw recently Jermaine Defoe and Rooney speaking about how they were so bored in an England World Cup camp they watched Wayne Rooney's wedding video. Now, no disrespect, like. I was married once. I never watched my wedding video. I didn't want to. I didn't have to relive it. I remembered it. Like you're watching a man's wedding video.
Terrible piece of entertainment, isn't it? Like,
I don't know.
If you don't know his bride,
I enjoyed
that
Shrek
is the
2.
worst.
I thought Shrek 2 was brilliant.
Like it was Shrek. that is rude. But there, look, it's one of them things. I think when you look at Paul Scholes, though, you're defending him to throw some light into this. What would you say in terms of when you think about his performances? What are his standout moments here? Because Gaza, whether they're for nostalgia, emotion, whatever it may be, people remember Gascoigne. That's why when Gascoigne now has his relapses, the country, I know he didn't die, but they mourn for him and they feel for him. Like with Scholes, what are his moments that stand out to you as an England fan?
The Scotland playoff. I remember that. I think that one, obviously. That's a massive rivalry, England-Scotland. So to step up and get 2 goals in a game that big is big. But I also think the thing is with Scholes, as I was saying, like consummate professional, never let anyone down. He was always there in the England shirt until obviously he was overlooked or whatever, and he retired early. But I also think that goes against him as well. You know, he retired from England early, and he was missed. You could see he was clearly missed in the England setup when he left because we had no other players who could do what he did. So I think for me, it's that thing of always professional, always did his job, did it well. I don't think you could ever watch an England game that Paul Scholes played in and say he played below a 7.
What would you say, Drifty, to a lot of England fans would say that, yes, Scholes was shifted out to the left, it was wrong, whatever they want to say. But some England fans that I've spoke to over the past think that he bottled the challenge and he walked away from his country rather than fighting to get back into the central midfield areas. Same thing was levelled at Jamie Carragher. I mean, very famously on the radio by Adrian Durham. Where do you stand on that part of Paul Scholes? Do you think he's damaged his England legacy by, okay, he said it was for his family, but do you believe that? Or do you believe that actually he walked away because he was disheartened of not being given a central midfield role?
Yeah, I think him and Carragher probably go in the same category where they probably thought, as good as I am, and I'm not even really, it's like pointless me being there. Why am I letting my kids not see me for a summer? Why am I, do you know what I mean, being like, I genuinely do believe him when he says it was for family. I do. But I think it was for family because he felt like it wasn't worth wasting his time. So I think it's a combination of the two. Do you know what I mean?
I put this question out to both of you. I was looking back over a bit of England, you know, build up to the World Cup now. I've been doing a lot of stat building ahead of the live shows we're going to be doing here on FanPark Live. One thing I noticed, which I would say was an advantage to Paul Gascoigne, is that it feels like he was part of that last generation of England fans. England players where the supporters loved you in an England shirt no matter who you played for. I remember Euro 96. I remember Italian 90. It didn't matter if you were a Man United player, a Spurs player. I remember Man United fans cheering for Steve McManaman in 1996. I remember them cheering Robbie Fowler when he came on. They loved Gazza, Shearer. It didn't matter. Where I felt from 98 onwards, which was the predominant where Scholes' era really started, there became this rivalry. You know, Man United fans didn't want Liverpool players to do well in an England shirt, and vice versa. You know, Gary Neville speaks very famously of going to take throw-ins in an England shirt and just being abused by England fans. Do you think this is something that, because of the way it became very tribal, do you think that potentially damages Paul Scholes' legacy amongst non-Man United or England fans who support rivals of Manchester United?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the invention of the Premier League has a lot to do with that. Yeah. Because if you look at the timing, it's around, what was the Premier League? Was it 93?
93. Yeah, 92, 93 season.
Yeah, so like everything then from then onwards. I mean, I know Euro 96 is in that, but like obviously it was the beginning. I think the Premier League, it's weird because I don't know why, because it's the same league. It just changed in the advertising. But it was just something about the Premier League and then Fergie and then all this dominance. And like, I feel like it just pissed everyone off, and it was like, no, fuck you. No, do you know what? I couldn't give a shit who we are. We're both English. If you play for Man U, I play for Liverpool or Chelsea. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't like you. And I think the players themselves used to feel like that.
Yeah, that was said recently as well, wasn't it? That they had this kind of rivalry in camp, and they weren't really gelling as a team because of it. But I do think it's to do with the dominance as well that Man United had at the time, and I think that put a lot of people out of whack. They didn't really like supporting this dominant Man United team, because as an Arsenal fan, I hated Man United more than most people. At the time, I didn't really hate Tottenham because they were insignificant. Do you know what I mean? They weren't doing anything. I get that. So I hated Man United with a passion, and that was around the time, you know, obviously we'd done the double and then Man United won it and all that kind of stuff. So when I was watching England, if I saw like Neville in the team or whatever, do you know what I mean? I didn't really want to watch them and cheer them because it felt dirty.
Yeah. I mean, when Owen scored past Argentina in '98, was you guys really happy? Because I was happy because it was Owen and England. Do you know what I mean?
Look, I was very much. Again, I have a lot of national pride. I love my country. I also think there's an element of politics to it as well these days, where I love being English. I love my country. I support my country. That's almost become a bit of a dirty thing to do, supporting your own country. People don't like it. You put an England flag up outside your house. They look at you a certain way. I will do that this year. No qualms about it. I'll wear my England shirt throughout the World Cup with absolute pride. But I think there's almost become a bit of a stigma attached to being an England fan. You then got the Premier League rivalry, like you mentioned. There's so much. But I will this year. It doesn't matter. Look, if Jordan Henderson bangs in the winner in the World Cup final, I am celebrating because he plays for my country. Literally, it's interesting as well. I was saying to my brother the other day. We got a call after this. I was saying, do you know what I want to happen this World Cup? I said I want 5 or 6 really good. I would love them to, of course, win it, but go far and do well. Because you know what would make me very proud as an Englishman next year? To see Jesse Lingard walk out of the Emirates. And because of how well he does in an England shirt, just in the warm up, gets a bit of a round of applause. If when Sterling walks out at Old Trafford, just for the warm up, gets during the game you boo him and try and put him off, but almost that level of what you put in such great performances for our country, I'll clap you. And you kind of got that you got that in Spain a lot, where you had some of the legends at one of the World Cups and Euros. There was a little bit of respect sort of before and after games in El Clasicos and stuff. During the game, you want that rivalry there, but I'd love to see a bit of that, because it might actually make the England players want to play for their country a little bit harder when they see a bit more love and a bit more support. But there we go. We've got a call coming through, I believe. Hello, welcome to FanPark Live Head to Head. What's your name?
Anuj.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Fine.
Good. And whose side are you on in this debate, Gaza or Paul Scholes?
I just want to keep it quick and simple in it because I need to go in it. So just one thing I just want to tell you guys.
Yep.
Why isn't Lampard in the question? Or is it just between the two?
It's between the two.
I'll go Gaza.
Top man. Like just like that. Any justification as to why?
No.
Cool, no justification.
He just knows.
There we go. Yeah. Well done. Cheers for that call. Firstly, he's white Lampard in it, because we're not talking about Lampard. We're talking. Look, what I would say is the reason these two have been picked is because when you go through, okay, look, stats and things, you can throw out there and look at stats, but when you go through and listen to what legends of the games have said over the last 25, 30 years, Scholes and Gazza been picked out as the two most gifted, most talented, most special England, in terms of what they can do on the ball. That isn't taking anything away from Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard, absolute top-class players, but just go out and put in like Paul Gascoigne quotes or Paul Scholes quotes and see what some of the legends of football have said about them. It's incomparable to what people have said about Frank Lampard and Gerrard in that regard, and I mean that with absolutely no disrespect whatsoever. We've got videos that we're going to play through for you now before we come back to deciding who's won the debate out of these two. Jay, is that ready to go? Right, we're going to put that on in just a second. We'll do a couple of comments, actually, from some people before we go. People are talking about the FA Cup final. Lampard was a good player. Lampard and Gerrard were decent, just not as good as Scholes, is what Jesse Hitman says.
I'd agree with that. I'd say they're better than decent, but they weren't on Scholes' level for me. I think he was a genius in midfield. Maestro is the word I
always
use.
argue that one, but
of course
that's
he would.
time
Of course
for
he
another
would.
story. Gerrard carried Liverpool for pretty much 10 years. Scholes and Lampard had phenomenal teams around him. Yeah. I just think that always edges Gerrard in the debate for me. If Gerrard had went to Chelsea, but if he'd have went to Chelsea in 2005, I think he would be way more involved in these arguments because he would have won more. He would have been way more involved in other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think being at Liverpool, as much as I admire him, actually harpered him.
Yeah, definitely.
Video's now ready. We'll come back to this debate in a few moments. Thank you.
I'm going to go with Scholesy. Definitely Scholesy.
Why over Gaza?
Just had everything. Just could make a game tick.
We only have to look back at the reports of all the professional players who say the best player they play amongst is Paul Scholes. That's stats. You go through Google, you go through whatever search engine you want to go through, and every professional player, the best midfielder they play against is Paul Scholes.
Paul Scholes, I'm a United fan, absolute legend, absolute legend. For me, when I think of a centre mid, first guy that comes to my head is Paul Scholes. Scholes, 100%.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I think for longevity, you've got to look at Paul Scholes. Yeah. There's not much else you can say that. Gazza, skill-wise, probably the best player most people have ever seen. Yeah. But calling past Scholes.
So who was the better midfielder?
Frank Lampard.
Yeah. 100% Frank Lampard.
Out of Gaza and Scholes, who was the better midfielder?
Frank Lampard, that's the best. That's it. See you later.
There we have it. Thank you everyone who sent those. If you do want to get some videos sent in for any of these debate shows, we do have a Dropbox video you can try and send them into as well. The information is in the description below. Remember, we're back every single night this week at 10 p.m. looking at some of the great World Cup kits. We'll be talking a little bit about Ronaldo and Messi later on in the week. Many more debates to come in the lead up to the World Cup. I think 23, 24 days away now until that kicks off. And remember to check in our description below for the history, #history of football that's going to be on history over the from the 28th of May. So go and check that out. Gentlemen, any final thoughts? Anything you want to wrap up on 30 seconds each? I'll go with D first.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Zidane's quote. He said the hardest midfielder he ever had to play against was Paul Scholes. And that is Zidane, who is arguably the best midfielder along Iniesta. But for him to say Paul Scholes is the hardest opposition he's ever played against shows the level of the man.
He never played against Gascoigne, though, did he? For me, in terms of England careers, I just think that one standout moment, Euro 96, flicked it over. Was it Colin Hendry?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy's had a bad time, isn't he?
Yeah, flicked it over Colin Hendry, volleyed it in. It was against Scotland, as you said, the rivalry, one of the fiercest rivalries. England, it was on home turf. It's one of the greatest international memories that I have, and I'm sure most England fans have. And just for that alone, I think he should be given the title as the best English midfielder.
Some great points raised by both. I understand both arguments, and I think both of them stand up there as two of the greatest central midfielders that England have ever had. In terms of who I'm going to side with, I have to go for the person that in an England shirt lit up my very young life. And I think during Euro 96 was probably my best time as an England fan. And as Drifty just mentioned, that goal against Scotland stood out. But it wasn't just that. It was the play. It was the emotion. And do you know what? Like, the behaviour on and off the pitch. I think it made England exciting. We all wanted to do it. I remember me and my brother having a haircut short and dyeing our hair bright yellow, whatever it was, like bleach blonde in it. I think Paul Gascoigne did that, and that's taking nothing away from Paul Scholes, an absolute genius. But I am going to side with Drifty and go with Paul Gascoigne as the best English central midfielder. Shame his career was cut so short, but what he did in an England shirt was absolutely tremendous. It really, really was. But listen, you guys can have your opinions. Leave them in the comments. But I'm probably going to get pelt as being a Manchester United fan. But further proof that I just have opinions. I'm not biased. There we go. Listen, everyone, smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button, whatever channel you are watching on. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.